Well, good afternoon, or if you're watching the recording, greetings, depending on what time you're watching this. Thank you for joining me today for I'm welcoming you to Copy and Your Stretch. These are a series of um, events that I do for stretch and the idea being to address the needs of educators, teachers, students, parents. It will vary with each one. The next one I will let you know is going to be in about a week and a half, and I will certainly let you know about that. Okay, real quick, what is stretch? I'm just going to share a little bit with you about who I am, who my brand is, and why we exist. First of all, that's the acronym. So I have people asking me all the time, why stretch? What is it? What does it mean? Upon retirement, and I'll share a little bit before we get into my special guest today. Upon retirement, I took early retirement, and I kind of knew that I really wasn't ready to leave my passion of education. So I'll share a little bit of that journey with you. But anyway, setting trends and redefining education through creativity and habit. That's kind of what I stand for. When I say setting trends, probably now more than ever, things are constantly evolving in education. And I don't know if there are people with us on here who are not educators. You may not understand, but there are always changes in education. Things change from the top, from through legislature. They change through district leadership. Things are constantly changing. So that's the part when I say setting trends. I still keep up with educational journals and things that are going on in the field. So as a result, as a result, sometimes things have to change. When I say redefining education, that kind of goes with the same thing in terms of when I left education, most of us know that things change in terms of expectations, trends in education, or I should say requirements. So you're constantly, as a leader, I left as a leader, so you're constantly changing. You're having to go with the flow. And then the creativity and habit part I want to share today. The creativity I want you to see today as far as my guest and how we have to determine the best ways to reach students and get our work done, depending on what's happening. Quick evolution. The evolution of stretch. It will be fast. I retired in 2016 early. Began my so-called retirement life. Part of it involved getting up and walking outside every day. When I passed by the kids at the bus stop every day, for whatever reason, I couldn't get past it. I was talking to them. So kind of, I always started conversations with them. So I guess a part of me knew then that it wasn't over, that I wasn't finished. So in the process of deciding my next move, an opportunity came to me. I received a call from a company that does kind of what I did when I retired. They train teachers, they provide support for teachers, they go in and prepare teachers for basically classroom management was the first thing I went into. And I knew that that was a passion for me because as a teacher, I was always against writing kids up and putting them out of class. That never really stuck with me as a solution to behavior problems because I knew they were always going to come back. And I learned early on that that kind of destroyed our relationship. The more I did that, the writing up and have them leave class, the more the relationship was destroyed. So when they talk about classroom management being one of the things that they wanted me to teach, or that they trained us to teach, I jumped on board right away. So I started the on-site trainings with that company using their curriculum, and I still do. That's one of the things I still do. And I also started presenting at conferences. Well, of course, March of 2020, all of that shut down. There was no on-site anything, and there were no on-site conferences. Actually, all the education conferences became virtual. So during that time, I made a pivot in my goals and how I was spending my time, and I got involved in additional training. So I became a mindfulness and I learned a lot about healthy breathing, mindfulness, calming the mind, and I did that with my educators in mind. So now I'm certified in teaching those things. And what I do with it is I incorporate it into any training that I'm doing. I incorporate it into that. So I continued, did some virtual trainings and presentations during COVID. And then during that time, or actually before COVID, I started a doctoral program focused on social emotional learning. And now, going around full circle, or kind of, I'm back in stride again, back in my passion of going into the schools, working with groups of teachers with 4-hour training, all-day trainings, whatever fits the schedule of the school at that time. So that's why I'm kind of a framework around why Stretch exists. If you want to learn more about what I do, my website is www.stretchurschool.com, or you can contact me at stretchurschool@gmail.com, or my phone number is also listed here. And you feel free to take a picture of that. And now, as we shift into the business of the day, I want to give my guests contact. I'm sorry, my recording stopped. I want to give my guest contact information first, or as well as mine. If you look, you see his website, www.rileysphotography.com, and there's his number there where you can text him. Okay. So, and I will give this to you again after he finishes. I'll make sure you get that information again. With that being said, our topic for today is, can partner dancing improve social emotional competence? And Riley will take over in just a moment. I need to share one more thing with you. Oh, shoot. Hi guys, I'm sorry, I just got the message that it's not showing. Give me 1 second. Let me share one more time and we'll see if it goes through. Let me know if it does not this time and I'll skip it. Can you see it? Okay, all right. All right, so without further ado, I will introduce you to my guest for today. I'm honored to have Mr. Riley Wimes Jr. Thank you, sir.
How you doing? Hello, 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 everyone. You got good audio? Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good to me. Anybody else? Any audio problems?
All right. All right, let me just introduce myself and introduce what it is I do, the reason that I'm being interviewed today. I've worked with kids more than 20 years, but specifically started in 2006. Started in 2006. We was a part, or I was a part of a ballroom dance program that my partner started. She got the idea from the ballroom program out of New York City that danced primarily with inner city kids. The purpose of their program there were to help change lives. The purpose of our program here is to help change lives. And we have seen a lot of success. We saw a lot of success before the pandemic. Obviously, the program has come to a halt as far as partner dancing goes until the pandemic is gone, over with, out of here. But in the years that I had the experience and the pleasure of working with youth, we did see things change in a lot of people. Not everyone had the interest, but the folks who caught on and the folks who really loved it, we did see some big changes.
Did we lose your audio? Did we lose your audio? Okay.
No, I thought you had a question for me.
I do, thank you. I want to know a little bit about when you brought it to, you said when you brought the program here, I mean, how did you encourage people to, or schools to buy in? What was the, how
All right.
did you able to sell it?
Yeah, so let me be a little more specific. We tried to bring New York's program here, and it didn't work out the way we wanted it to because the bureaucrats of the Chicago public school system started to get involved and make it their baby, make it their program, and make it look like they were doing something more for themselves than they were for the kids. So that part of it didn't work. When that didn't work, we went from dancing classrooms to dancing with class. We were a part of dancing classrooms. Dancing classrooms was the product from New York. we started dancing with class, our own product in Chicago, to kind of smooth out some of the wrinkles that we saw when we worked with the program in New York. And it wasn't New York's fault, it was Chicago's fault. It was their fault. So how we actually went about marketing was sending out packages to different schools, going to some of the trade shows around the area. And then obviously when things started to, of course, we had contacts from the schools who initially did dancing classrooms from New York. Of course, those contacts was in place as well. So some people had experience with a dance program, just wasn't our dance program.
So speaking of that, give our listener or all of us some little detail about what kind of dance.
All right, so it's a ballroom dance program. And we go into a school, a particular school. We work with primarily fifth grade, but sometimes you will have fourth grade and some sixth graders. It just depends on how many eligible students that we have. We always would like to take at least 20 students to the final competition. The final competition being at the Cultural Center downtown. Sometimes we don't have 20 students in a school. Some schools have more than 20 students who want to go. So some schools are a little bit better at it. Some schools have a little bit more of a tougher time collecting the right amount of students. But anyway, we go into a program or we go into a school, and our program is to teach 5 dances. Every school learns the same 5 dances, the same curriculum, the same choreography, the same steps. And over a course of 10 weeks, they learn them. And then when they come down to the Cultural Center, they perform them. So this is the picture. You have about 7 schools. Those 7 schools are dressed up at this point in their school colors. They'll have a sash and they'll look really, really good, okay? And that's one of the things that benefits the kids. When they actually go somewhere and they put on nice clothes, they feel better, they perform better, they know it's for real. So now you have all of these schools, one couple at a time on the floor representing their school and dancing against the other schools. So say we do salsa. We're gonna do 2 rounds of salsa. One couple from my school is gonna be in the first round. Another couple from my school is gonna be in the second round. They dance against the other schools, rounds over, we go to the next dance and repeat that whole thing. Now, when the competition finalizes, there's gonna be one overall winner. There's also gonna be a winner for best presentation and a winner for best showmanship. So the schools who brought the bright smiles and brought the flamboyance, they might win for best showmanship. But the schools who executed with technical efficiency, they may get the technical trophy. The school who did overall wins the overall, but no one goes home a loser because there's always a trophy for a particular spotlight dance that school or a school will take. So no one goes home without a trophy.
So I need to interrupt. So let's talk about what you just mentioned. No one goes home without a trophy. So what we're talking about, and with 5th grade especially, we're talking about, or I want you to talk about a little bit, the whole, social emotional learning competency we talked about, social awareness, self-awareness, self-regulation, being able to, behave. And how do you they're 10 years old, right? So let's just say in your regular, you were meeting with them weekly, once a week or something like that?
Just once a week. I'll meet with them once a week. Ideally, we have a teacher's assistant. She may meet with them during the week when I'm not there. That is not always the case. If a school provides us with one, we are fortunate, they are fortunate, but a lot of schools don't provide us with one, or a school may provide us with one, but that teacher's assistant is not present.
So do you feel that this type program, I think you might have mentioned it or touched on it, with kids that young, do you think it, makes them more disciplined, more able to self-regulate? And I don't know if you touched on it today or not, just the confidence level and stuff like that.
Well, here it's going to be the most evident. It's going to be the most evident at the final competition. Of course, a lot of times when you're practicing can be all over the place unless you have an extremely focused group. And that could be adults or kids. That could be adults or kids. But where you're going to really truly see the results is in the final competition. As I touched on before, when they dress up, they become more aware of not only how everyone looks, but they become aware of how they feel. They become aware of how they feel. They're going to act differently dressed up than they would if they didn't dress up. Okay, they actually have a sense of better behavior just because of the change of dress. Okay, and then you bring them downtown and they start to witness other schools that they may look at differently, but not differently in a bad way. They may look at them as a level up. So if they look at another school as a level up, let's just say we got a South Side school going against a North Side school. If you're on the South Side, you may automatically think that a North Side school is a level up. Okay, I probably did it when I was younger. And so that's going to bring your level up. Okay, if you think you are good enough to compete with someone at a higher level, your level is going to rise. So that's how it affects. Now, practice, like I said, practice can be all over the place. I can constantly, hey, come on, let's go to work. We got some work to do. So I can do that sometimes 30, 40 minutes out of the hour. But a lot of it is still centered on the administration and what they provide us with, and then some of the safeguards that they put in place to make sure that their program is successful. They have to make sure that their program is successful by providing us with all the tools that we need, which is pretty much humans that they'll respond to when it comes to managing their behavior.
Let's talk about yes, I understand. Let's talk about the whole partner, just the concept, I guess. Are there any downsides or disadvantages, or what are your experiences with working with kids that young and they have to have a partner? I don't think we talked about that.
Some of the downsides, and you'll see it more from young ladies at that age than young gentlemen. Young ladies are not shy about not wanting to dance with someone. So if they don't want to, they'll make it very apparent. Gentlemen, young gentlemen that age may not want to do it and may not do it, but they're not as vocal in a negative way that could hurt someone's feelings as a young lady might be. All right, so that's some of the downsides, and that's some of the things that we try to help manage, because that's part of the program. When a young gentleman comes up to the young lady and puts his hands out, and basically we say this non-verbal gesture means, may I have this dance? And for the ladies, their non-verbal acceptance is putting their hands palms down in his hands. Now, I don't have on long sleeves, but when we first get to that connection, it's a problem. Long sleeves are gonna come over the hands, and you're gonna have everybody try to do sleeves. It's like, no, we need connection. And somebody might say something negative about another person. You never know what someone's home life is. You never know if they have the access to the things they need access to stay clean, keep good hygiene and all of that. And somebody might say something about somebody. It's gonna happen at that age. So that's some of the downside. The upside is we're there to help them get through those issues and teach that maybe you shouldn't have said that, maybe you shouldn't have handled it like that. And that's where the social emotional training comes in.
So you get a chance to teach SEL skills inherently just about through the contact. One of the things that I study or spend time on is, should we be teaching these? In some schools, we teach these as a program, an SEL program. And a lot of the research actually shows that it's more effective in the way you're doing it. It just happens. We teach, how to respect each other as a part of the program, not
Yes.
part of a canned program that students tend to tune out of anyway. My next question is about the culture. Let me see. The video that I was attempting to show at the beginning was, of course, you instructing, the adults in the dances that we are more accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as a culture or just in general, not necessarily. It's not an ethnic or race thing, but ballroom dancing, on the other hand, I guess my question is, how do parents respond to, I'm going to teach your child ballroom dancing. I'm not going to teach your child the electric slide. I'm going to teach them ballroom dancing. That was kind of what I was looking for with that video, is to hear a little bit about the contrast between those two things.
Okay, that's a fair question. And we can go back to that comparison of a level up. While ballroom dancing may not be prevalent in urban society, in urban neighborhoods, in urban schools, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's looked upon in a negative or bad way. People who watch Dancing with the Stars are also urban people, and they have a respect for what they see.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it's not something that's commonly practiced, doesn't mean that it is looked upon in a negative way when it comes into the school. Is it different? Yes. Is it outside of our culture on a normal basis? Yes. But does it necessarily mean it's looked upon in a negative way? No. And so when the parents and other adults, family members come down to a final competition, because they're not present during practice, maybe one or two might come in and check out a practice session, and the kids might go home and show some of the parents some steps and things like that. But when the time comes for them, the parents, other adults, to come witness at the competition, it's like a sporting event. It's like a sporting event. You got banners and cards, roses, and people shouting and hooting and hollering, and you know, gentleman is leading the girl around the ballroom or makeshift ballroom, and the girl is styling and doing her thing. And so there's a lot of respect at that point. There's a lot of respect at that point, especially if their child is doing fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, I'm gonna backtrack just a little bit, and we'll get right back on track. But I want to touch upon, say someone is in a school and they're not that popular. They haven't been looked on as the most popular kid. Okay. Let's just say maybe the kid was from another ethnic background and only one of a few of that particular ethnic background. But say he or she is in a dance program, and while people may have shied away from them, if they start executing great dance skills, they start to become a favorite to dance with. Mm-hmm. So those kind of wins are good to witness.
So one of the things you and I talked about was how, I guess as an adult teaching something like that, I think you mentioned to me that the relationship, one of the issues that we have is, I think especially right now, teachers I talk to, articles I read, different things, is relationship building. Do our students trust us as adults now? You know, this COVID thing happened. You know, I had to deal with the Zoom and all that. So you had mentioned to me something about the relationships that even though you're only seeing them once a week, as an adult in a, not just an authoritative position, but teaching something that they know they're learning something brand new. A little bit about, you know, you had talked about how the relationships that came out of it, as far as the way they look at you. They, in other words, what I pulled out of it is that they have a new adult to, you know.
Yeah, well, but let's talk about whether it's kids or adults. And you're an educator, former educator, you're still educating. We have to go in there and actually establish within an audience, whether it's kids or adults, that we actually know what it is and what we're doing. Because kids and adults will pick up on it. If you don't know what you are doing, they both will pick up on it. They're not going to be as responsive as you want them to be. And you're going to be clock watching. You're going to be clock watching. I mean, when I first started teaching, it's not that I didn't know what I was doing. I knew what I was doing in dance, but there's other aspects to classroom management and teaching more than just teaching what it is you know specifically. So I was clock watching. You know, clock, what time, how many, oh man, 20 minutes? Oh my God, what am I gonna do for the next 20 minutes? So, but when you get to a point where you're not clock watching and you just putting information out there and tips on information, and you know, you might crack a joke, and you know, sometimes you know when to pull back from the information, and it becomes a whole package. That's when they buy in. That's when they buy in. So when we're at a competition, and I've been telling them for 10 weeks, man, y'all better get on this, because these schools are coming for y'all. You better practice. I said, don't nothing beat the jitters in your stomach, in your head. Nothing lessens the jitters more than practice. Practice, 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 practice. The more you have confidence in what it is you're doing, the less jitters you're gonna have. You're always gonna have jitters, but you lessen the jitters by more practice. But when the competition comes and we're at the cultural center and they're not quite sure where they need to be. And I told them in advance, don't ask me on the day of the competition. Don't ask me. But here they come. Here they come. Mr. Wright, could you come help us for a little bit? So they know where to come get the help. They know where to come get the help. And they know I'm not going to lead them wrong. So they bought in at that point.
So one of the things that interests me about our kids, especially that young, learning ballroom dancing is the emphasis that we place on sports, academics, which these are all real things. I'm not denying the importance of these things. But it always seems like some kids get left in the dust because they're not the strongest academically, or they're not the best athlete. And let's face it, there are kids who are very strong at athletics. And the thing that I've always kind of struggled with as an educator is when I watch the strong athletes excel and the students who just had the desire, they really wanted to play, they wanted to be a part of the team, but that just wasn't their strong suit. And because we didn't have necessarily, in some cases, enough options, they joined the team anyway, or they wanted to be on the team anyway. So what I always, not always, but at times I saw self-esteem suffer as a result of being on that, being a part of a squad or a basketball or football squad, and whether it be not getting to play or whatever. But what interested me about your activity or this activity is it's a level playing field, right? Everybody.
It's a level playing field from the start, but just like any other activity, you're going to have some who float up to the top and some who float downward. And some of the same things happen in this program like it would in any other program. And so sometimes that's where it becomes a matter of a young person finding their lane. And that's where sometimes someone has to actually help direct them. See, your lane might not be my lane. My lane might not be your lane, but everybody has a lane. And so when something may not be for them, ballroom dance is not for everybody. But some of the practices that we teach are for everyone. Being respectful to your classmate, escorting the young lady off the dance floor after your dance at the competition. So we practice that before the competition. So the young lady's going to be on the gentleman's right. So while he may not be the star dancer, he might not have even made the team the final cut. But he practiced some new behaviors, some respectful behaviors, and he could quite possibly take what he's learned into his lane.
So they do get cut. Just as a sport, you have to cut kids in ballroom.
So let me give you two different scenarios. I mean, I might be at one school that's just a struggling school. They're struggling every which way but loose. Sports, academics, in-school activities, they're struggling. So we might not can even get 20 students. So guess what? All of them going anyway. But it's like you got 7. Boy, y'all going, and not only are you going, but y'all dancing multiple dances. As a matter of fact, the strongest dancer is dancing more than anybody else. Okay? But then take a school, one of my favorite schools, a champion school. I'm proud to say that. Is school New Sullivan. They have a program where they actually had to implement things that we never coached them as far as implementation. They would have so many people that wanted to do the program that they would have to have an elimination competition in the school just to whittle down to the 20 that were going to the competition. So that was something that was unheard of in our program. I mean, when the program comes up, they get fired up. And so they have such a high level of dance and the folks who want to dance that they actually have to eliminate in the school via a competition to get to the 20 that's going to go to competition. So that's two scenarios.
Well, it varies depending on the school and how popular or how well the program goes over at that school.
Yeah. Students are engaged according to how well the leadership is engaged. Okay. If the leadership is interested in the students will perform better overall. If the leadership doesn't appear to have a great interest in the students, but their interest is outside, more political, more tied into, look what we're doing, even though you ain't done nothing, then, the schools are going to perform and have poor interest. It's as simple as that.
So in your experience, you say you like to start, or I guess the model that you follow, you like to start with 5th grade. How far can they go with your program? I mean, can a student go on up through 6, 7, 8, or?
No, I think there may have been some schools may have had a 7th, 8th grade dance in here or there, but we won't go into a program and coach a whole room full of 7th and 8th graders. But as an example of New Sullivan, they liked our program so much that they expand to allow us to teach other age groups. They won't go to a competition at the cultural center, but they always have an in-school end of the year program, not necessarily a competition, but they have a program where these kids dress up and dance and the parents come and it's beautiful. But not only do they dance, they have other artistic endeavors that they showcase and show off.
Okay.
So I guess the bottom line is some schools are more interested in arts programming than others. And some schools understand that the programming of the arts lends better in the realm of social emotional learning than straight math, English, science, geography, and all of that.
That was my kind of where I was headed with it, as far as I think one of the other ladies and I talked about dance and how there are academic skills to be learned out of that. I think she mentioned math in particular with accounting. In other words, what I'm asking is, or I guess I'm probably stating more so than anything, that there are core skills that can be gained from this. You mentioned the soft skills, the social skills, right?
Yes.
But even, I guess I'm, just thinking through, there are core skills that can come out of this. When I say core, I mean math, science, social studies, and English. So, yeah, I like the fact that, I like what you said too about, and we saw this even in high schools. When kids dress up, they act better. talk about our kids would, I was at a school where we had fights. We had a lot of fights. So the question always came up, should we, if there was, I don't know, one toward the end of the year, should we still allow kids to go to prom? And one of the things that I think that everybody figured out is kids are not going to fight at prom. They look too good. They're dressed, they're dressed up. So I thought that was interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, it's a very huge, I'm just gonna say, thing you can see. It's a visualization, but it's something that you can see. A group of people dress up, they act better.
Mhm.
They feel better. Okay, they feel better. It's as simple as that.
Mhm.
When I went to my senior prom long time ago, I went to a school where, even though it was located on the south side, it was only 10% African American and 90% Caucasian.
Mhm.
And while we had some issues, man, look, by the time we got to prom and we all dressed up, it was all love at that point. It was all love. Nobody had any attitudes and any issues at that point. And when we graduated in tuxedos. Nobody had any issues on that day. Now, maybe before and maybe afterwards, but we were good during that role. But I am going to take you back to the core skills. We make that connection a lot. We make that connection a lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So I need a phrase of music. A phrase of music is 32 beats. How many times do we have to do this 8 before we get a phrase? So there's the math component. Then the English component. First of all, we're dancing this particular dance. This dance is called the tango. All right. So this is what it's called in English, but where does it come from? So now we have the geographical component. So we do teach and touch all of that.
So it ends up being a part of, and just like, I guess, anything, it ends up being a part of it.
Yeah.
I had one more question. Oh, as we get ready to close out, what is the ideal situation for if a school wants to offer a ballroom dancing program? This is after school for the most part, right?
For the most part, it is after school.
What ideally would you say that you need from them? What do you need the school to provide? You mentioned an assistant. You need someone to meet with them when you're not there, right? To continue the learning.
Well, that's part of a soft requirement. That's one of those things that it's written in the rules, but if it doesn't happen, we're still going to come in and subject the teaching artist to all that adolescent abuse. So we still gonna go through the program and do it. Why? Because we're the professionals.
Right.
We're the professionals. We know what it takes to make it more successful. But if we have to go in there and put on the armored gear, not so much from a violent standpoint, just from just dealing with kids who don't have a true authority figure in the room. Then, we go in there and we put our experience into play. It's not for someone inexperienced. They're going to rethink it after those 10 weeks and wonder if that's something they want to continue to do. But once you have experience, you just go in there and get it done.
I want to go back to the kids and the skills and the things that they're pulling out of this real quick. I know it's kind of jumping backwards, but this thought just came to me. Leadership. Talk a little bit about the kids who do excel, and do they take over, or do they kind of take on a role sometimes, a leadership role? My head is always on social emotional learning. I can't stay away from it, but I'm just picturing at that age, in high school in sports, you always do a captain.
Right.
I played sports, so there's always someone, a peer, that's playing some type of leadership role.
Sure.
I just want to know, in this case, the ballroom dancing with the fifth graders, is that something that sometimes you see kids wanting to take that role, or they're just too young for that?
All right, so we don't designate captains, co-captains. We don't have any designations, but the kids who dance well are looked up to. All right, the kids who dance well are looked up to. I'm sorry, I'm going a little bit in and out. They're looked up to, no doubt about it. And what they do is, when they get too old for the program, like you mentioned before, they come back and assist.
Oh, that's always good. Yeah.
They come back and assist. We also have a scholarship program, all-star program, and kids who want to continue, but they're not eligible for the fourth, fifth, sixth thing. They can go off-site on the weekends and other times and have performance opportunities and actually get more training, and it's paid for through a scholarship program. So there are places for the kids who excel to either give back or keep going.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you joining me today and being a part of the Stretch Pop-In family and initiative. There was one more thing about, I was just thinking through this from the adult standpoint. I think we might have talked about this before. If there are adults in a school, and I'm not trying to sell or anything the program, I'm just saying, if there are adults in the school who have an interest in dance, maybe it's a side interest, maybe it's a hobby, would your program promote, or I guess I want to say, would they accept if there was a person in the school, I don't know, who said, hey, I saw what they were doing with that ballroom dancing. I think I want to help the kids to stay up with it between the time they come back. So I'd like to work with them. Would that be something that you would promote, or say, no, unless you've had the training, I don't want you to do that? I'm just curious.
Well, so let's take it back to the teacher assistant. The teacher assistants actually go through
Formal training?
A trade. It's not huge. I think maybe a couple of days, but they go through a training.
Okay.
And they the dances and they learn the steps. They might learn some classroom management, but they're in the school and they know the kids, so the classroom management component is innate. It's already there. But they're there to try to teach when I'm not there, or at least kind of clarify some questions that the students may have. Doesn't always happen, but there's really no place for another adult or parent as far as skills go. But as far as just kind of helping out, like the one school that I said is my favorite school, they seem to have a lot of people who are just on board with the program. And that's outside of the people that I immediately have a connection with. Because when we go down to competition, it's like 2 or 3 other people. And sometimes they're like, yeah, I know you because you come to school all the time. But their whole school is always aware that this program is going on, that I'm coming in, and that they'll be going downtown and doing their thing. Okay. And then the other things would be, liability and things like that. Now, if an adult wants to actually dance socially, because this is what we call it, social dance ballroom. When you dance ballroom dance outside of a competition, it's social dance. When you dance ballroom dance outside of a competition, it's social dance.
Okay.
So stepping outside of the world's largest steppers party is social dance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, salsa outside of a salsa competition is social dance. So if you want to learn how to social dance, our parent dance studio, who actually underwrites the program Dancing with Class, they have a studio up north. So obviously that's where you have to tell people to go. I can't tell them to go over here to Arthur Murray if I'm being underwritten by a studio up north.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you again for your time. We're going to be closing out now. I know how busy your schedule is. And I really, really, really appreciate you fitting me in. Any last words, any last advice for schools? I have schools who'll be hearing this.
Here are the words of Lee. Lee was a gentleman who I'd see him out dancing, and Lee would always just end the night by saying, "Keep on dancing." He passed away a couple of years ago, but he always made sure to speak to me. So he'd always say, "Keep on dancing." So keep on dancing.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
And we'll see you soon.
All right. You make it a great one.
All righty.
Come on.